Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Challenge Miami. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Challenge North America, City Bikes, Veneto, the Challenge Athletes Foundation, Florida Dairy Farmers, and Wahoo. Our next guest, Mr. Tyler Butterfield, the father of 4 and a professional triathlete. What the hell? How can you even do that?
Well, I don't know how the age groupers add a job in on top of that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, well, those guys are the crazy people.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty lucky. My wife takes care of the show.
Yeah.
With COVID, she's now homeschooling. So in the winter in Boulder, when it snows, I got to go home and deal with the kids in between swimming and when I get on the bike and the run. But yeah, it's good fun. It keeps it lighthearted. The kids understand. I mean, everyone's got to juggle something.
They do have to juggle something. So coming from Bermuda and getting an opportunity to be on multiple Olympic teams, how fun was that?
Yeah, I mean, Bermuda's an awesome. Bermuda's, you get in the Olympics, you get in the Commonwealth Games, you get in the Pan American Games, you get in the Caribbean Championships. Like, you literally get to do every major event that's available.
I'm moving there.
Yeah. You guys should.
Go pro.
The hardest thing is actually sometimes you have to say no to a couple.
Yeah.
It's just too many things you can put on the plate. And yeah, born and raised there. My mom's American. She ran in the first U.S. Women's Olympic trials.
And she was she 4th in Boston?
She was 4th in Boston, but she's honest. That was a year that the pro women boycotted.
Okay.
And she had 2 kids and a job, and she was just like, I'm going because I want to run.
Right.
So yeah, she has the unicorn trophy.
But 238.
238 was in the Olympic trials, though.
Yeah.
Not at Boston. At Boston, it would have probably done a little better, but
no,
she was a handy runner. My dad was a handy athlete, and I learned a lot from them. He went to the Olympics for rowing, and I remember him growing up. He used to say that the guy who won his event didn't have a carbon fiber shell; it was a wooden shell. He just worked the hardest, and that was their motto. They started the Bermuda Triathlon Association. He did Kona and got 7th, but then that was his one and only Ironman, and then he pursued business.
And that was 81, 40 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we were saying
I was in that race.
Yeah. I've looked
Your dad was, keep looking. You have to keep scrolling down a long way to get to me.
I've looked at all the results. It's pretty fun to see. Triathlon's such a great sport. About the community really does stick around. I mean, even if people get out of it for a while, generally they'll come back and do one at some point or along the line. They've done something to help the sport or help the community.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's amazing what PTO is doing, Challenge, talking about helping the community and helping the sport. And yeah, I mean, this is probably my last year racing, but at the same time, I'm happy I'm privileged to dip in and do 1 or 2 of the races. This is the first time racing on a NASCAR track. I've done a Formula 1 track, but that was 7 years ago when I was one of the young guns.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an incredible experience, an incredible vibe, and I'm excited for the future kids and up-and-coming pros for triathlon.
Well, so being in Boulder and training with some of these young up-and-coming kids, I mean, we were just talking about Matthew, who's just was with us. The guy's like an aerospace engineer.
Yeah.
And knowing that he's a numbers guy and he's run a 2:21 marathon, he knows what he's doing swimming and cycling and with power meters and everything else. He wouldn't be screwing around with it if he didn't think that his numbers translated, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the young guys now are so data-based, and then you just got to make sure you have the right data, which, I mean, we were just saying that Gustav has a lactate tester that he uses a lot, and I think that's really smart. Like, every couple of years I've gone in, and I'm more like how old school, like Macca and Chrissy used to go more on feel.
Right.
But every time that I've felt, when I've gone in for lactate testing, I use perceived effort, and I'm like, okay, this is where I think my threshold is off feel.
Right.
And they come back and they're like, yeah, that's where you're.
So were you pretty close?
Yeah, I'm generally pretty close. Just because I came up through that generation of you had to know the feel. We didn't have all the data, and I'm terrible with technology. Even this morning, I was trying to get my Garmin to go back on GPS. I was riding, and it went off somehow because it had the touch screen, and I'm like, I gotta fix this. I'm definitely old school. I love the new technology, but I'm definitely like, get it done.
You know it's old school when you have to pull out your reading glasses to see the Garmin to be able to figure out how to program the thing.
Yeah, for sure. Mine I gotta remember to charge. That's the half the battery. It's like, low battery again.
Do people? Like you said, there's a lot of tools to give you numbers, but how accurate are those numbers? I mean, with a lot of people, I'm sure they go into these races thinking this is where I should be, and they're way back because maybe they're reading the numbers wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the numbers won't lie to you, but you can lie to yourself.
Yeah.
Or you can do the wrong tests and the wrong training off the wrong numbers. And that's what I see sometimes is people that just want to use a different number.
Right.
And I mean, it's a tool. A tool is only as good as the person using it.
Right.
And that's what's cool about racing is racing, to me, I mean, that's why I'm here. I got new shoes, new bars, new saddle, new run shoes. First race of the season, I just want to test out new stuff. I didn't expect it to be this big of a field. It's slowly gotten stronger and stronger. And so now I'm a little nervous. I'm like, man, for the first race of the season, I didn't really pick an easy one to test all the new stuff.
It's an all-star game. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, that's the sport. It's getting more and more professional.
Yes.
And so you have to expect it to have good fields. I mean,
absolutely.
We call ourselves professional athletes, but you can't go around looking for weak fields.
And that's one of the things that drove me crazy. I felt like that we were in the world of golf, and every race had one pro, right? You'd go to the race, and it'd be three guys. You know it's going to be first, second, third. It's just like which one's going to be first, second.
And it's nice what's happening to the sport, how the fields are deeper at every race.
Absolutely.
And that's how it should be.
That's how you get better.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of that, and is Jan Frodeno, Lionel Sanders, you love racing all those type of guys, probably not with all the new equipment, but I think people came here thinking, this will be like Daytona. We'll put our head down. We'll go, 37 and a half miles, just pushing as many watts as possible. There's wind. There's different pavement on the backside. There's a few sort of sketchy turns. It's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be more than just going around in a circle. Even the people in Daytona, there wasn't that much wind, but some said you could still feel it.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, Daytona had a stronger field than here. I train a lot with Sam Long, and I sort of was...
You're on the podium in Sam's.
Yeah,
we had his long shots.
That.
He got you.
But I'm glad he's not here in some way. For him, I know he'd do well.
Yes.
He's just one of those young guys who's just a huge
what an
star
engine,
and huge engine. Yeah, huge animal. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting with the. I haven't checked out the course yet. But yeah, going inside the track on the road track will make it interesting. And this could be the future of the sport. Like I got to do a Formula One track years ago in Abu Dhabi, and then here, I mean, why not do more races like this that are on the track?
Well, I just think the future-wise, you and I have been in this long enough to look at this and go, wait a second, we could be doing duathlon here. You can do triathlon here. You could do an aqua bike. You can do clinics. You could do camps. You could have a rock concert.
Yeah, it makes it spectator friendly, and TV friendly. It ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, you don't have to put you guys out on real roads. You're totally controlled. TV, it doesn't have to worry about pickup trucks coming the other way. You've got the thing totally blocked off, right?
Exactly.
And you've got internet and the whole bit, so you can actually cover this stuff the way they cover NASCAR.
Yeah.
I
and
think
compared
it's cool.
to NASCAR, I'm sure it's easy.
Oh, I was talking to the guys from NASCAR when they were filming. I'm like, God, you guys have never covered triathlon. Are you concerned? He says, normally our guys are going 190.
Yeah.
What are you guys going? Maybe 30?
Yeah. I think we got it covered.
I think we'll have a sandwich in the back of the truck, and then you guys will. Here they come. It's not really a problem.
Yeah.
But did you watch some of the Daytona coverage?
I watched all of it.
Pretty amazing,
I mean,
right?
To be honest, as an athlete, racing in December is a bit of a struggle sometimes, especially with the kids. The big pull for me is the kids.
Of course.
Like after this race, I had a good January, February. But when I wasn't sure what races were going to happen, I said, look, I'll take a bit of a break and then rebuild for Kona.
Right.
And hopefully I can make it there. You never know. Don't take it for granted.
You've qualified for Kona.
Qualified.
You're
so
in.
I know I have it. It's just staying healthy,
right?
Not injured.
Well, so that puts you in a position where you sort of, depending on what races happen, you can sort of call your own shots and go wherever you want. If you want to say, hey, do I want to do Roth a month before? I don't know.
Yeah. But some of my best races are the ones where I've had no points at the beginning of the year, and I just had to race. It keeps you like hungry. It keeps you honest. It keeps you having to go to the races. It keeps you in the bubble. And I'm quite easily distracted. But yeah, speaking about Daytona, I had 6 hours pretty much on the couch. I had to go out and play with the kids in between. Like I watched start of the swim, end of the first lap, let them get on the bike, and then I'm like, okay, I could go play with the kids in and out on the trampoline, come back. Okay, what's happening? Okay, but watched all the females, bit of a break, had some lunch, and then all the males. It was pretty amazing. Like for a fan of the sport, it was awesome to watch.
So seeing a kid like Sam Long come into the sport, right?
I was yelling at the TV. Even my son started yelling, and he hasn't met Sam. He's just like, "Go, Sam!"
It goes out, but it's cool. This is a guy who feeds off the crowd. I think we both know that if he didn't get his heart rate up there to like 190, getting the crowd going, he probably could have finished 5th or something like that. But that's not Sam.
But the biggest thing as well is I think he gave Rudy a bit of an extra fuel to the fire. He passed Rudy, and then the other thing is I was yelling at him. They had, I think it was Coke they had aid stations.
Yes.
And he runs up to basically second or third of the finishers. He fell back, but the people that he fell back behind, there was a few. He ran up to 5th, but of those 5, 3 finished behind him anyway.
Right.
And I'm like, Sam, you're starting to fade. Grab something. And we've chatted about it since. And he told me, he was like, look, it was one of those things, and I've had it in Ironman. Like if I grab something, I could have a stitch.
Right.
But if I don't, I'm slightly bonking. But I'm not bonking where I'm just going to blow to bits. And that's where, as an older athlete, generally when we have our good days, you always have these little decisions in the race to make, and that's when the older athletes have a little more experience. Even though our threshold's probably a little less, we have the experience to help us on our side. And that's played dividends for me in races the last sort of 3 years. It's not my ability. The young kids I know are better than me.
But I'll think them. It's a chess game out there at the end of the day. So what I love, at 36 years old, you go and run a 221 marathon.
Yeah, 221 in one called
Lake Biwa,
which they just had, and they broke the Japanese national record there. And last year they broke the record, but not at that race. Someone told me it might be the last time they had it. I think there used to be an Ironman.
It was. There was Lake Biwa was where the Ironman Japan was.
Yeah. Someone, Welshie, said when I was
out there.
he
won it back then. Yeah. What did you surprise yourself? 221 is flying.
I did 226 in Com Games, and that was when the leader actually collapsed. It was a super hot and humid day. So I thought that was ballpark. I mean, deep down, you're always chasing. I think that at that time, the Olympic standard was 218. So I went through the half in 109 something, and then sort of blew up. But from doing half Ironmans, you're used to getting off the bike tired and running if you can run well, a 112. So it's a similar thing. Like you run through the first half feeling good, and the second half is like coming off the bike, and you're suffering, but you need to. Last year I was training Brad Callafelt, who was an ITU athlete. He's the one who got me into that race. And then we were both going to do Tokyo Marathon last year, but obviously COVID hit. They still had the elite race, but we were in semi-elite. So we didn't get to do it. So both of us want to go. He was probably 30 seconds off that. He was 222 something. Both of us sort of want to crack the 220. And we
still.
I don't know. But that's why we were going to Tokyo.
Okay.
We thought Tokyo's had some fast times. Right. It's again in March, so I can just. The interesting thing is 2019 was one of my best years, but I didn't swim January, February, and I only started swimming after that race in March. I did one bike ride a week because
you were training for a marathon.
Yeah, but training for a marathon, I was doing 10 hours a week. I'm like, this isn't enough. So I had to add like a 4-hour bike ride in just to get me up to like 15 hours. But it was great for the family.
I bet.
I just didn't do as many hours. And then later in the year, I wasn't sure if I was going to race triathlon 2019. And then Boulder Ironman was in town, and had Brent McMahon came. And I was like, hey, I'm pretty fit. I'll train with you. And so he got me training, and I raced Boulder Ironman just for fun. Like 8 hours 40 on 12, 15 hours a week. Not doing a bit more on the farm, looking to do other things. And then I was like, I don't have anything lined up. We have the farm running itself. We have one full-time
How
guy.
fun is that?
So then I decided to go back in for the end of 2019 and probably had my best year in 2019 just by starting slow and
being a little fresher.
Yeah, and racing because I wanted to, not because I felt like this is my job. I have to service my sponsors.
Right.
I have to do this. I have to do that. I missed Kona. But then I ended up having sort of
a really good year.
Yeah.
So what do you grow on the farm?
It's a horse boarding facility. We got goats, llamas, chickens, but we don't actually grow anything. We call it a farm.
Okay, but you got llamas. I dig llamas.
My wife digs llamas. We've now got 5, and a couple might be pregnant. And I'm like, what are we doing? We're supposed to be downsizing. It's an interesting sort of hobby.
You know what I love is the whole thing with it. Your dad was an Olympian in rowing, and he was 7th in 81 Kona. Your mom was 4th at the Boston Marathon and 238 Marathon. And then Nikki right? What, 2011, 70.3 Syracuse. She won that 5 months after being a mom and won Abu Dhabi. Just your whole, everybody is basically a world-class athlete.
Yeah, I mean, it's so different generational. Like my parents both had jobs at the time. Like,
Right. Yeah, nobody was making money doing that.
Yeah, I remember after the Athens Olympics, I got a wild card. I got to do it. I was 21, and my dad's like, "So what are you doing now?"
Right.
And I was like, "Well, I'd like to try and be a pro triathlete." And he's like, "You just did the Olympics. Like, come on, let's go do something else." And they've always been so supportive.
Right.
But it was a bit like, can you really make a living at that? And then Nikki's more talented than me.
Yes.
She's always done better. She won an ITU under 23 Worlds, and then almost as soon as she stepped over, she went to cycling for a couple years, 15th in UCI Worlds, and then back to triathlon. I think was 4th just after having the kid at High V. Like, it was just for her, but she understands it, which makes it easier for me. I think I would have already had to stop if she didn't really understand the whole.
Oh, of course.
The pro, and being in cycling for a couple years, there's friends of hers that had kids without the father because the tour was on.
Right.
And it's like, you're on contract with a team. Don't expect, if your kid's born during the tour,
Dad's not coming home.
Yeah, Dad's not coming home.
Right.
So there's a lot of benefits to triathlon, and she understands that.
Yeah.
And she also understands that I'm going to be tired a lot, and the kids understand. You learn to play lying down on the ground, and I mean that's one that I got to hang out with Crowe a lot, and he's got a handful of kids.
Right.
And I met him through Macca, because my wife's Australian, but you just learn how to adapt.
Right.
And you got the kids around, but you need to rest and you need to do the training. Like, there's no way to fudge it. Like, you have to do the work to get the results.
In 2019, that Ironman Cozumel, when you're 238, 744, right?
Yeah, it was just one of those magical days. But to be honest, I did Miami, Florida, and I don't like wetsuit swims, and it was a wetsuit swim, but the water was hot, and then we got out of the bike, and because you were so hot in the water, I didn't wear many clothes, and then it was freezing, because that's why they let it be wetsuit, because the outside temperature was so cold. It was just one of those days. I still did all right. I think it was 8:03 or something, and I still ran well, but I blew up, and I didn't grab Coke till like the end of the run,
right?
And I just said, grab Coke early, but it's interesting. Like, I had a bad swim in Cozumel. I wasn't looking at the time of the whole race.
Yeah.
On the bike, I started to get back issues again, which is one of my weaknesses. I've had it since I was like a kid.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, oh, you can't pull out of your last Ironman. I literally thought that was my last Ironman. And it might be my second last if I don't do one before Kona. And then all of a sudden you get on the run, and I'd had back issues in Florida 3 weeks earlier. And so I got off, put my run shoes on, sat on the ground, cracked my back left, cracked my back right, and went out and
ran 238
and felt good. I felt good in Florida running, but I had back issues, and like my transition was super slow because I stretched, and then I realized, like, the last thing I did in Florida to release my back was cracked it both ways, manipulate it, but that took me like, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes to realize that.
Right.
And the end of the bike was hurting. So between Florida and Cozumel, I shortened my cranks. I went less aero. I upped my bars. So it just made everything like
a little more comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable versus speed.
Yes.
And then I still had a bit of a tight back in Cozumel, but as soon as I got my shoes on, I just sat on the ground and cracked my back. Like, why wait till it hurts to do it?
Yeah.
And those are things you just learn,
yeah.
which I like about racing. Like,
you learn stuff in racing, you can't learn in training.
Yeah, you can train as hard as you want, but a race is
different gig.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you have to do. Like, that's why we train, is to race well. And so the racing will show up a weakness, and it just means you need to tweak it, which is, I often like a race before your
real race.
Yeah, before your key race.
Hey, good luck tomorrow, man. A Friday race. That's sort of
Friday
nice.
Race.
Not messing up the weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Get to enjoy the rest of Challenge Miami.
I know. Always a treat to get to chat with you.
Thanks, Bob. You
I
too.
love it. Hey, Dad will have to come over for the 40th anniversary of his Ironman.
Yeah, they always come to. It's the one race they come to.
It's Kona. Of course. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Tyler, thank you, buddy.
Thanks.
Tyler has been our guest. Mr. Butterfield has been picked in the top to make the podium by Sam Long in his long shot. So no pressure on you, buddy. Again, this is Breakfast with Bob from Challenge Miami. Hold on. We'll be right back.